the fundamental problem with the idea, the assertion, is actually he doesn't say that. He doesn't say
there are 7 heavens, one above the other.
No, he doesn't say that the universe is divided into 7 heavens.
It does. It says there are 7 heavens, one above the other, and the sun and the moon are in the lower heaven. Correct?
The stars. 500 years.
It's been an interesting conversation.
So it has. It's been good.
Yeah.
So between each,
and I will learn this. Sorry to interrupt. I will learn from this. Alhamdulillah. But what I'm happy about, it has no bearing whatsoever on what I believe. Alhamdulillah.
The thing is, it doesn't match.
7 heavens is described in the Aristotle.
So the only thing that matches,
and it's described in the Quran.
So the only thing matches is 2 words: 7 heavens.
I mean, you've got to believe that by sheer coincidence, the real structure of this great reality that beyond even our observable universe matches an incorrect model of the universe.
This is the whole point. The model that the model that you're bringing from Aristotle doesn't match.
Evidence. What that should do is, you rather than when you say believe something, believe in God, don't believe in God, you always often answer yes or no. But rather, I think it's more appropriate to say I have certain levels of belief. As the evidence gets stronger, my levels of belief go up.
Can I ask you one question?
And now people, yes, but one second, right? Now people have used this argument and said this has helped me believe in God, right? Or they think it's some convincing argument for God. And what's happened is the science has changed, and now what should happen is your belief in God should go down a bit. How much we can debate, right? But it should go down a bit.
Right. Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Does anything you've said today refute my belief in a creator?
It depends why you established your belief. If you established your belief...
anything you said today...
I'm not at this point, I'm not trying to prove there's no creator. All I'm trying to say is that if you are using...
I'm happy.
Okay, good. I can have other things. If I can say other things...
What do you mean?
If we can talk about other issues, right, and the argument for suffering and so on and so forth, that I think does affect the belief in creator. But in this case, this is an argument that's been advanced to increase our belief, our confidence that there's an intelligent creator. And I'm saying that this argument is not a good argument, and so your belief should go down a bit.
All I'm going to say is you seem very, very knowledgeable in cosmological science, physics, this, that, and the other, and nothing you've got to say refutes my belief. Alhamdulillah, I'm done.
Okay.
Phil,
if you would like me to present something that does refute your belief, I'm happy to do so.
Phil, you know the other things you mentioned about... Phil, the other things you mentioned about...
What do you want to refute?
Well, I'm talking about the 7 heavens. I think that does show strong evidence of the Quran.
What does the Quran mean when it says 7 heavens?
Okay, so when in the Quran, in 71:15...
Oh,
right?
no. Why don't you start quoting these numbers?
No, it's okay.
Right, because you need to check what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
I can't just assert something without giving a reference, right?
No, you can say it first, then I could possibly say, where does it say that? Then you can give me the verse.
Well, I was just anticipating that question.
Sure.
But I apologise if you took offence at that.
No.
Okay? All right. So in that verse, it says, God created 7 heavens, one on top of the other, and the sun and the stars and the moon are placed in one of those heavens. Okay? Now, why do I think that's evidence against the Quran? Because if you study the history of astronomy, what you find is that this view of cosmology, of the 7 heavens, goes back at least to Aristotle. Okay? Aristotle proposed there were these celestial spheres, one on top of the other. What we know is from ancient astronomers is that what they could see is they could see 5 stars moving differently to all the other stars. Okay? They called these stars the Wanderers. And the Greek word for wanderer, anyone know what it is?
Anyway, so your implication is, the implication is this: the author of the Quran must have had access to Aristotle's work.
No, it's not that. Of course, Aristotle could be right. I mean, that's not the point.
No. That was
the point. Is he copied? The author of the Quran copied a mistake of Aristotle.
Right. That's the first.
They copied a mistake.
No. I'm not going to say a mistake or not.
But of course, it wasn't just Aristotle who said that. They might not have got it from Aristotle.
Let's go to the premise.
Okay.
Your premise is Muhammad lied about him receiving supernatural revelation.
I'm not saying lie, because lie implies that you know you're speaking something false.
So you don't believe he lied? Don't say don't know.
If you say something is false, it could be false. You could believe a false thing. A lie implies you know what you're saying is wrong.
I'll make it easy for you.
So he could believe that he was getting...
So he could be delusional crazy. Yeah?
He could just be mistaken.
No, he could be delusional crazy thinking angels are talking to him.
That's one possibility,
Right?
sure.
He could be deceived by the devil.
Another possibility.
But you don't believe it.
Assalamualaikum, lovely to see you. Yeah?
But you do.
No, you don't.
You do.
Oh, you don't. So you wouldn't make that claim, would you?
I wouldn't make that claim, but you couldn't say that that's
So
inconceivable.
you've only got 3 variables.
No, I've got more than
Well,
three.
what's your 3? Well,
He could just be mistaken. He might genuinely believe.
He might about that. There is no connection with seventh heaven.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Don't worry. Well, if you want to give us the reason why,
I'll give you a reason.
She basically
Go ahead.
provides the...
No, don't worry about it.
Go ahead. Let's hear the reason.
Forget that, don't worry.
No, it's important.
No.
Because this is
You know, I'm
and he thinks he has to
that's more side.
So let's hear it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
Go on, Imran. Do you have a reputation?
Yes, I do.
Let's hear it.
So I was just looking for the hadith, I can't find it, but I'm going to paraphrase it.
Okay.
So the understanding that we've been told, so you have the description within the Quran, you have to understand this. Now, the assumption that is we're told is that everything that we're seeing is the 7 heavens, and that's not correct. So what we're told is, from the earth when you look out, everything that you see, all of the stars, everything is within the first heaven. So the universe itself, as we know it, would be within the first heaven.
It doesn't say that.
No, but this is the thing. So,
It doesn't say everything is in the first heaven.
let me explain.
Or if it does, I'd like to see the verse.
It's not. So we have in Islam, when we approach understanding, we have 2 sources, at least 2. There's more sources, but at least 2.
Okay.
The first is the Quran itself, the statement from the Quran.
Right.
So what does it say? You can look at it, and then you can. And this is where a lot of people, particularly Muslims, they go into looking for a scientific explanation for a verse.
Yeah.
And then we have explanations from the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Yeah.
So that's in the hadith.
By the way, 7:30. I got to go.
What time is it now?
6:50 now.
No worries. No. Thank you. So we're told that in the hadith we're told that actually between each of the heavens is a distance of 500. My voice is a bit low. Sorry. So even the distance between the heavens.
What about that video?
So there's 7 heavens, and the distance between each heaven is 500 years. So we're given a time, not a distance. At what speed? We're not told the speed. But this is the distance that we're told is between the heavens. We're also told in the hadith, and I know I'm not giving them to you. I could look for it. I couldn't find it. I'll bring it to you next time. Is that everything that we see, everything observable, stars included, everything is within the first heaven. So this is not a.
That's not in the Quran. Would you agree with that?
So this is the explanation that we have is not in the Quran, but it's in the hadith.
Okay.
And these are both religious sources for us that are revealed for us.
Okay.
So we have. So this is not the Aristotle view of the universe. Okay. So these heavens that it's talking about is something else, and maybe we don't have an explanation. So this is a good question. Maybe we don't have the knowledge to understand what the other 6 heavens are, but what we do know is that the first heaven and everything within it is the universe.
Okay, can I make a response? Okay, first off, if we study the history of astronomy, we know that people created models of cosmology that we know today are wrong. That there were 7 heavens, one above the other, right? And the planets, the 5 planets that they knew about, then we know there's more than 5 planets, right? But they only knew of 5 planets. So they put the 5 planets in a separate heaven, one above the other, and the sun and the moon were in the other 2 heavens. Okay? And so that's why they believe in 7 heavens. Sure. And it's wrong. We agree that's a wrong model.
Absolutely.
We agree Aristotle's model is wrong.
Yeah.
So now the Quran mentions 7 heavens, and it says that one is above the other, right?
Yeah.
Right? So that looks remarkably like the wrong model of cosmology.
But it's not.
Right? Now, you've got to have to say that it's pure coincidence that the real reality of the world matches the Aristotelian model, right? Even though it's not the Aristotelian model. That's pure coincidence.
So
but what do you think is a more reasonable explanation? A more reasonable explanation is they just copied a wrong cosmology from Aristotle. Or it was believed at the time of Aristotle. It's not just Aristotle that made this.
The problem with that position, though, Phil, is that
that's a lie.
It's not.
How is it a lie?
No, I'll explain. It's
Sorry, how is it a lie?
All right.
I'll explain.
Because he's claiming he got it from God, and you're claiming he got it from Aristotle.
I'm not saying Aristotle made this. He could have been another source.
If your
he didn't mean Aristotle.
If your assumption is that Muhammad didn't get this information from God and he got it from some scientific source, and he knows it's from a scientific source, but he's saying it's from God, then he's a liar, really.
No, I don't agree. Here's what could be the case. He believes God is giving him messages. He starts, imagining things, right? and those imaginations are
he's
informed
deluded.
from the world around him, from the knowledge around him.
So he has access to
lying,
this.
lying implies you're speaking the
Exactly. That's
falsehood.
what I'm saying.
Whereas
So-
he might believe, this
we
is
can
coming from
extrapolate
God,
that. I know, I'm not gonna change subject.
it's not as simple as
But what
lying.
you're saying is this.
But it's mistaken.
All right, so what you're saying is Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him,
Yes.
was mistaken and memorized the Christian scripture, the Jewish scripture, the Apocrypha, and the Jewish oral tradition, and these bits of science. Yeah? And then,
Why does he have to memorize it?
well, where's he got it from?
He meets people, he hears things.
Who
What's
told
the
you that?
problem?
Who told you he met people and heard things?
Well, people do meet people. People do hear things.
Do you know that
That's not a crazy assumption, is
How
it?
many times did Muhammad leave Mecca?
I don't know.
Right, so you're talking about something you don't know. Right.
But hang on. I don't need to assume that he left Mecca to think that he met other people, do I?
No. So,
Right? So that
all right,
piece
all right.
of knowledge is irrelevant.
So what you're saying now is people came to Mecca with information about the Bible and the Torah and
That's conceivable,
all
sure.
right. When did the Arabian version of the Old Testament reach the Arabian Peninsula?
In a text form or in an oral form?
Text.
I don't know.
9th century. Okay. When
Hang on, how do you know that?
history tells us.
What history?
Okay.
How do you know?
I'll explain it to you. We know from scholarship that the
From scholarship, you have to be more specific. What's the evidence? You can't just say a scholar says it. You have to tell me what the evidence is.
you want it now,
Yes.
right now.
Yes, please. And also, how would you know that oral tradition hadn't gone earlier than 9th century? How could you possibly know that?
No, but this is what we're saying to you. The oral tradition may have. But
Right. Well, that's all you need, isn't it?
No, but what you
That's
need,
all you
what
need.
you need is this illiterate man to memorize everything he's told. Yeah.
He doesn't have to memorize
does.
everything,
Well,
does he?
well,
Does he?
Well,
I mean, if he's heard that the most learned people of the time think the universe is divided up into seven heavens,
stop.
that's enough for him to write that verse, isn't it?
Through your implication.
Well, the problem,
Sorry, Imran, go on, let's
let me find what I just said.
the fundamental problem with the idea, the assertion, is actually he doesn't say that. He doesn't
say there are seven heavens, one above the other.
No, he doesn't say that the universe is divided into seven heavens.
It does.
So,
It says there are seven heavens, one above the other, and the sun and the moon are in the lower heaven. Correct?
the stars.
Well, okay. It says the lamps, I think. I mean, 71:15. Let's get it out.
37:6, and we have adorned the
Yeah, but
lowest
it's-
heaven with stars.
71:15 is the verse I'm thinking of,
Yeah.
right? 71:15 says this.
I'm glad you've got
let's
a Quran,
get it
Phil.
out.
I'm glad you've got a Quran.
I've read several translations.
Well done.
Classics.
One of them was recommended to me. This one was recommended to me by Paul Williams.
Okay.
He said this is a very good
That's a good one,
translation. Okay. Or he said it's the one I should read because I'd read.
Who's that
some
by?
others.
Is that the? This is a really good one as well.
Tarif Khalida.
If you can get hold of
Which one is this one?
This is the Halim translation.
Halim.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a really good one.
When I get time to read another translation, I'll look at that one. Okay. So here's his translation. Do you not see how God created seven heavens, piled one upon another, setting the moon among them as illuminations and the sun as a glowing lamp?
So it doesn't say that anything's above. It doesn't say.
It does say
that the.
piled one
I'm not Arabic,
upon
sorry.
another. Piled one upon another.
Yeah.
So that is very. Would you at least agree that is consistent with the Aristotelian model?
So this is.
Can you at least agree with that?
So look, let me tell you. So similarity is not plagiarism.
No, I'm not saying
So this is the problem that we're having. So if something looks like something else, it doesn't mean it's the same thing. You have to analyze it. So you're taking the seven heavens and the seven heavens above one another, and you're saying, okay, these are the same. What the Quran and the Hadith explain is everything within the universe is in the first heaven. Automatically, then it's not the same as what Aristotle is describing.
Okay. I mean, I've not found anywhere. I looked for this in the Quran.
I'll bring it for you.
That says everything is in the lowest heaven. But also, we have another problem, right? So if you're saying, so the problem is up and down, lower and above, makes sense only when you're near a massive body. So if you're standing on the Earth, you're pulled to its centre of mass. When you're out in space, up and down don't have any meaning. There's no above and below in space because you're not near the centre of mass, right? So it only makes sense to have above and below if you're talking about the Earth, right? But if you're saying the seven heavens are not what Aristotle was saying, then you have to explain how is it they have this notion of above and below. That no longer makes sense, does it?
It's the thing is you're looking at intuitive language with a scientific lens. So it's a description of
No, that's not what I'm looking for.
So it's a description of the universe from for us human beings from our perspective.
Okay.
So everything else is above.
No.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a scientific explanation of how everything is constructed. In fact, I wouldn't say this is a verse that describes the universe in a scientific way at all.
Well, of course you wouldn't, because you know it's wrong.
No, because
right? I mean, that sort of seems to be a biased judgment.
No, there's nothing in it that's wrong.
If you were just, well, you agreed that the Aristotelian model of cosmology is wrong.
But this is not the. This is what I'm saying.
I accept that, right? I accept that's what you think. Sorry, right?
That's what the
I'm
evidence
saying
shows.
is, if it is the Aristotelian model, then it is.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Let's
but
say
it's not.
we agree with that. But you're saying it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. So therefore, it's pure coincidence that they use the same number. I mean, it could be any number of heavens, right?
Yeah.
Could be 1, could be 2, could be 10 million, could be 10 to the power 100.
Absolutely.
It could be any number.
Sure.
But yet, it happened to be exactly the same number as the Aristotelian model, right? And you think so? By your rhyming, that's pure coincidence.
No, so
what are the odds of that?
Let me explain. So the number 7 in history is one of those numbers that is used for many descriptions. In fact, in Hebrew and Aramaic, other Semitic languages, where you're told to forgive someone 70 times, and that actually means a number without end. It's used to refer to 70. So the word number 7.
17 or 70?
70. So the number 7 is used to refer to many phenomena without actually it being a specific number. We're told 7 here. Now you can't take a similarity and then say that these therefore they're the same exactly. No, they're similar. How are they similar?
What is the best explanation for that similarity? I mean, would you agree, at least one conceivable explanation is that that was the prevailing wisdom at the time, and so they put it in there. So would you at least concede that's a conceivable explanation?
So I think if you assert that this is the Aristotelian model, then that's a conceivable explanation.
Yeah.
But actually the model itself has been further explained by the Prophet in the Hadith, as everything that we can see is within the first heaven. And then we're told that the distance between the heavens is a time frame of 500 years.
It's been an interesting conversation.
So it's been good.
Yeah.
So between each...
And I will learn this, sorry to interrupt, I will learn from this, alhamdulillah. But what I'm happy about, it has no bearing whatsoever on what I believe, alhamdulillah.
You know the other issue...
You're happy about something?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I hope your beliefs respond to evidence and challenges.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
They do.
You've said nothing that refutes what I believe.
Obviously, I don't think you're going to change your mind like this.
No, you haven't brought me anything that contests what I believe.
Well, if my argument here is a valid argument, and of course Imran thinks it's an invalid argument, but if it is, then you should...
Where did you find this argument?
I read the Quran and it occurred to me because I've studied the history.
So you're saying to me, you started, what verse is it? You started the Quran there?
No, he's read it. Give him the benefit of the doubt.
I read the whole book. You can see.
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
I've highlighted various passages.
Listen.
Interesting.
It's not beyond the realms of reality that you could Google something and you could see the reference and you go to a Quran and you reference it. It's not hard to do that.
No, of course. But even if I did do that, so what? That doesn't change the validity of the argument.
No. But what it does...
So what? I don't know where you're going.
No, because your understanding of that argument. See,
I read the Quran and this occurred to me.
Can I make life easy for you?
Now you can say I looked it up.
No,
that changes nothing.
It doesn't matter.
I can make life easy for you, and it's beautiful. And I've said it already today. I'm going to repeat it.
Okay.
You come across anything like this, just because I guarantee you will find that on all the anti-Islamic websites, right? Guaranteed.
Is it? I don't know.
It will be. It will be. And what you do, you go to Google and you write whatever it is, the 7 heavens, whatever it is, answering Christianity, right? That's all you need to do.
Oh, I've read that website.
No. What answering Christianity does is destroy all these claims.
Well, I don't agree. I don't think their response on this was in any way adequate.
Did Imran respond to this? Are you happy with his response?
No, I'm not happy with his response. So I completely disagree with it.
Why not?
But I mean, he can develop it more because I think the difficulty here is that you've got
You're not eating with us.
How can it be that it matches?
All Bolton, isn't it?
What's your explanation for that?
The thing is, it doesn't match.
7 heavens is described in the Aristotelian.
So the only thing that matches,
and it's described in the Quran.
So the only thing matches is 2 words: 7 heavens.
Right.
Everything else doesn't match. So in the Aristotelian model, are all of the stars in the first universe?
The stars actually aren't considered in the 7 heavens. They're part of a different structure.
Sure.
It's a celestial sphere. So actually, if you look at these ancient models, the stars were assumed in the really ancient models, going back to to the Babylonians, the stars are on a fixed dome. Okay, they're not considered the 7 layers of heaven.
So even the Quran,
7 layers of heaven are the sun, the moon, and the planets.
So the Quran itself says 37:6 that the stars are in the lowest heavens. We adorn the stars in the lowest heavens. Now, that automatically this is opposite to the view of Aristotle, because he says this is another area, the dome, above the 7 heavens, and the Quran is saying actually...
Okay, so the stars are not above the dome. They're
on the dome.
Well, they're different models. There's different models, right? The Babylonians thought they were in a dome. I don't think Aristotle thought they were in a dome. Okay, Aristotle doesn't really describe where the stars are. Okay, but he does describe. It's not just, as I say, it's not just Aristotle. There are various different cosmologies, but what they have in common is this notion that Earth is at the centre, and these heavens, these layers, are one above the other.
I'm going to pray.
I'll pray that's already.
Okay, Darren, just let me see you. We know that it doesn't make sense to talk about the sun, outer space having up and down above another.
I agree with you.
We know that doesn't make sense.
I completely agree with you.
Right? And we know that they got 7 because there are 5 planets that they could see, and 2, the sun and the moon.
So what you mustn't do is take that theory and then impose it upon the Islamic theory because you find 7 heavens. The thing to do is to say, actually, okay, these look they're similar.
Right.
What actually are the Muslims saying about this? What did the Prophet speak about this? Did the Quran speak about this in any more detail? And then when you have the theory in its some sort of holistic nature, then compare the 2 theories.
Okay, but let me just address that. Let's presume that the Quranic model is different to the Babylonian model, the Aristotle. I mean, all these models are not the same anyway. The Babylonians believe something different to what Aristotle believed, and there's variations on these models of ancient cosmology. So let's suppose the Quran's got its own model, right? That doesn't mean that they didn't get the idea of 7 heavens from these wrong models, right? Because in those days, it's not like you had these textbooks with detailed description. They heard things by word of mouth. So they'd hear bits of information, and they hear, there's 7 heavens, right? They don't necessarily know all the details of the model. So we can perfectly explain any variations, right? Slight variations about, whether the sun is on the lowest one or whether it's layer 3. I mean, you can look at pictures of the 7 heavens in ancient cosmology, and they don't necessarily all agree on what's where, but they all agree that there are 7 heavens one above another, right? So the fact that you're saying, the Quran model is slightly different, to me that doesn't really disprove the idea.
It's different in a way that makes it non-contradictory to science then.
I disagree. If the heavens are one above another, we know that the notion of above and below needs you to be in proximity to a massive object, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to talk about above and below.
No, but as I said before, and we're getting circles now, so it might be a good time to end. But when the description is given to the human being, that's what it's being done. The description is going to be from the human being's perspective. So literally, when we look up, we do see.
But you don't see more than 7. If that's the case, you only see one.
We're not told.
But it says, do you not see there are 7 heavens?
So we're not,
right. This is the whole point.
Sure.
It says, do you? That's the whole point. If it was something beyond space and time, let's suppose our universe was one heaven, then it doesn't make sense for the Quran to say, do you not see there are 7 heavens? Because you couldn't see more than one heaven.
But this is
right. You couldn't. So that argument doesn't work.
No, because again, you're taking linguistic and rhetoric as literal. So you're told.
You're saying we shouldn't take the Quran literally?
No. That's not what I said at all.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So we're talking about comparing 2 models that use the word 7 heavens and assuming they're the same. I don't think that they do. I think they're actually different models because the Quran talks and the Hadith talk about the stars all being within the first heaven. Now the other heavens, we're told there's a distance between them of 500 years. Okay. Between each of the heavens.
Yeah, I know you've said all this.
Yeah, so
how
are you explaining the up and down?
So from your perspective, where are the heavens?
Where are the heavens?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know how to answer that, to be honest.
They're up, right?
Okay.
But they're also below, right? I mean, they're beneath us.
Yeah, but absolutely.
They're all around us.
So this is...
When I look at a star, right, I'm actually trying to observe Mars at the moment. It's in...
proximity.
It's opposition. So very good views of Mars. My problem is, Mars is bloody close to the horizon, so all the atmospheric rubbish is interfering with my telescope and I can't get a good image, right? It's not above us, it's right on the horizon. So it's not that everything appears above you. That's not the case. And also, it's not the case. I mean, I don't think you've addressed this issue. If the seven heavens are not as Aristotle described and as these ancient models describe, and you're saying that the whole universe is one heaven
within the first heaven,
then how can it be that you would see that there are seven heavens? Because if it's the case that it is like the Aristotelian model, I'm not saying it's the same as Aristotle. As I say, there are variations on these models, but what they all have in common is that they have these layers, one above another, right? If it's describing that, then it makes sense to say, do you not see there are seven heavens? But if it's the case that the whole observable universe is the lower heaven, then that verse no longer makes sense, does it?
No,
because
it
you wouldn't see seven heavens.
No,
you only see seven heavens if you're talking about the planets.
So
then you are seeing
I
seven
understand what you're saying. But the thing, I don't take the seeing in the sense that you're taking it.
Okay.
I take it as rhetoric.
How are you taking it?
A rhetoric.
Okay.
Just with God asking you to look at the universe, essentially, look around you. And we see lots of statements like this. Even description of some things that we can't see with our naked eye, do you not see so-and-so. Now, it's not, have you not seen, the heavens and earth are one unit and we're talking about something? Yeah, sure.
Can I just interrupt you, just to narrow the question in. It says, do you not see a couple of times, I think, in the Quran, right? And when it says that, isn't it kind of inviting you to look at what you can look at?
Exactly.
Isn't it apparent?
Exactly.
Sure.
Isn't it so apparent to you that X, Y, and Z?
Sure. So
it's not just saying, otherwise you wouldn't need to say.
Sure.
You need to
So you have to take seeing you have to understand what it means. Okay. So
it's not like you have some other sense of these seven heavens. But I understand that seeing doesn't literally mean seeing with your eye.
That's my point.
I appreciate that point. It's a valid point. But it's irrelevant to this case because it's not like you have some other way of detecting these seven heavens. You don't, right? You have no other sense of detecting them.
I would say
so it only makes sense if it is visual seeing. Otherwise the passage doesn't make sense.
Even if it's not, the point I'm just trying to make is it's inviting you to do something that you can do. So if everything is in the first universe, then I guess we can't do we can't see the other six.
At the moment, we can't.
Okay,
well, not to the people that this book was written to.
Well, no,
right?
it's written to us all, and it's forward in time as well.
Okay, but let's put it this way.
What you're saying is that there's never going to be a point when we could somehow assess beyond.
If you think, right.
Yeah,
if you think the lowest heaven is the observable universe, what we can observe, then by definition we can't observe the other ones. Right? By definition, that must be true. Right?
But we're not talking about. We're talking about you're limiting our ability to sort of look further to our current level and saying this is going to be it. But I don't think that's the case.
I'm not saying we couldn't in the future find some way of detecting some other universe, right? But this verse makes a lot of sense if they're talking about the seven heavens that everyone can see with their eyes. Even if it doesn't make any sense if you're talking about some other unobservable structure.
The problem is that it's still not the Aristotelian model because actually we have a different understanding of where everything is.
My argument is not that it is identical to the Aristotelian model. As I said, there are variations on what Aristotle said because these things were passed to people via word of mouth. Of course, there's variations.
Sure.
So I'm not saying it's identical to the Aristotelian model. What I am saying is it was inspired. It was most likely inspired by the Aristotelian model and therefore ill-informed. Right? They're copying a mistake that we now know that no one at the time knew was wrong. Everybody in those days thought that's what the universe looked like.
Maybe I've lost. Where is the error?
The error is that there are more than 5 planets, so it doesn't make sense to talk about 7 heavens.
They're talking about planets.
And they're not above each other. When you go into outer space to where the planets are, it makes no sense to say that they are above another.
Phil, you've conflated two different things. It's not talking about planets. It hasn't mentioned planets.
The model that everyone believed in at the time is talking about planets. So you have to understand the history of astronomy.
Sure. So
they saw 5 stars that were moving differently. They called those stars the wanderers, or in Greek the planets. Right. So when they said the word planet, they didn't mean we have this visual idea in our head of what a planet looks like. They had no conception of that.
Sure.
They just saw they were stars moving differently. So they thought they had this model then that they existed in these celestial spheres with the Earth at the middle, right? And these spheres were above one another, okay? And that was how they viewed the heavens, the cosmos, right? And you agreed at the beginning of this conversation that that model was wrong.
It's wrong, yeah.
Right? Okay, so now we have to ask ourselves, is it likely that this passage comes from those ideas? So I'm not saying that specific version of a model,
but you have to,
variations.
So it doesn't talk about planets. The model that the Quran describes doesn't talk about planets, and it says that everything is within the first heaven. So I would say
the Quran doesn't say that.
In 37:6 it says all the stars are in the lowest heaven.
Okay, it doesn't say everything is in the lowest heaven, though, does it? Because the planets stars could be in the lowest one, and the planets could be one above the other.
So
right?
thing is
so that's not saying that.
So you have to find something that says that the planets are in the other heavens.
So is your claim?
No, what I'm saying is it's reasonable to believe that's what they thought, because that's what everyone thought.
No, you can't.
Is your claim that it's a copy or it's just wrong, whether it's a copy or not? Which one?
It's sort of both, but you have to understand, when I say copy, I don't mean exact copy.
Okay.
Right? I don't mean they had like a textbook. But this was knowledge around at the time. This was the common view of the cosmos at the time, and this view was persistent at least until about the 16th century, probably.
So this is European.
Right. Not just European. This is the Babylonians. This is the Greeks. This was all around the world. Okay. This was the common. Why was it the common view? Very simple. Because when you look up, you see 5 stars moving differently, and you see the sun and the moon, and then all the other stars move in one way. So there are 7 objects that move differently. So that's what they thought there were 7 heavens. Okay. Right.
Each for the different planets
right?
and
So I'm not saying they had a textbook from Aristotle and they copied it. It was an idea around the time, and this passage was informed by that idea.
But somehow,
that idea we now know is wrong.
So somehow, no. Well, actually, the idea within this is not wrong. So somehow, the person that, if we take the idea that the information was borrowed, somehow, but somehow they were able to tweak the theory, the understanding, so that the idea of putting the planets in the layers and the stars above that was done away with.
Was it done away with? Where?
It says that all of the stars were in one level.
We're talking where that's done
37:6.
37:6.
So everything is in all the stars are in the lowest heaven.
Yeah, but it doesn't talk about the planets, does it?
So then why are you saying that the planets are in the levels above it?
Because that's what everyone believed.
No, but that
was the common view at the time.
No, but
so if you're going to repeat something, wouldn't it make sense to say, but the planets are not, in these layers, right?
Well, no, why?
You could correct. That would be amazing if the Quran actually corrected the error that everyone believed. That would be pretty awesome.
Did it not?
But it didn't. No.
Why did it not?
Where is the correction?
Where is
You're saying, well, let's have a look. You're saying 37 what?
37:6. Does it repeat?
37:6.
Does it repeat the error?
I think it repeats the error of 7 heavens and one above the other. Both of those are erroneous.
Why?
Okay?
Why?
I agree it doesn't talk about planets, right? But it doesn't need to, right? It's clearly repeating a view of the cosmos. I mean, you've got to believe that by sheer coincidence, the real structure of this great reality that beyond even our observable universe matches an incorrect model of the universe.
This is the whole point. The model that the model that you're bringing from Aristotle doesn't match. That's the problem.
Well, they both say 7 heavens. Agreed.
So all they say that looks similar is 7 heavens. Everything else is really conjecture.
Okay, 37. Is it this one?
Yeah.
We adored the lower sky with the adornment of stars.
Yeah.
Right. But it doesn't say all the planets are in the lower stars, does it?
So, but in your theory, the Aristotle theory, that you're saying that this is an understanding from, where are the stars?
They're not really in the 7 heavens. They're in the firmament.
Above.
But it depends, because some people believed in the firmament, some people didn't believe in the firmament. So different models, different views. Right?
So the theory is not the same.
No, but you're missing the point. The 7 heavens, right, is the same.
But that's not the theory.
No. But you're missing the point. You're assuming that it's like a specific model that is being copied, and I'm not claiming that. what I'm claiming. Okay, well, I'm going to be out of time in a minute. All right.
Phil, what we can do,
yeah, go
we can talk about this further if you like.
Sure.
But you said that some other things about the problem of suffering, etc.
Yes.
That you think are other things. I think maybe we should talk about those things as well.
That's fine.
Look into this a bit further. I don't think they're the same theories, but we can agree to disagree.
That's
okay.
Fine. Okay.
And then we'll take things from there. Is that right?
That's
nice to speak to you today.
Well, it's great. It's been a really interesting
time. Take it.
That's not fair.
Sorry.
You just ended it. All I heard was nice speaking to you.
Sorry.
Your discussions are always really interesting.
They were.
And so I thought, it'd be lovely to hear them, to two proper intellectuals.
Well, you're going to get here earlier.
Intellectual speaking,
Yeah. No, alhamdulillah. It's good. It was nice.
Why don't we? I think would be interesting. I don't know if you have are you part of this organisation or what?
So there's a couple of us that come together. We're not really
formal. It's a very informal sort of thing.
I mean, I think
we just happen to live in the same area.
I like this idea for a debate because Bill Craig has done it recently, and I did it with someone else in America, and it's a new format for a debate, if you like. And the idea is that you swap your statements in advance, and you do like a formal debate, 20 minutes, but you swap your statements
So
with 2 weeks, so everyone gets a chance to look into the claims, see, check sources. I think it's a really good
open way of doing it.
All right, then.
Sorry, I was just taking my shoes
He's
off.
not been drinking.
I've not been drinking. There's all these tripods behind me. Right. I really like this idea for a debate. So, and I think you would be. It's all right. It's okay. You don't need to, go from the cuff. It's a more thoughtful way of debating. What do you think?
It sounds good.
Yeah.
The thing with me is time.
Yeah. I I have no idea when we would do it.
It's something we're looking into.
So if you, have you got your number? Shall we swap numbers?
Sure. Why don't you take email? Take my email.
Okay, sure. Give me your email. And what I'll do is I'll
Mixing it up with a different colour socks.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But they're the same design.
So just type your email in because I want to share it on camera.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That's a nice way of doing it, isn't it? You have shorts, but you can just zip them on and you've got trousers on. I had to get the jumper on.
Where's the at? Okay. Oh, there's a 1 there. Can you get rid of that?
You press the 1 instead of the at.
There we go. Brilliant. Thank you.
I'm going to have to watch this one on YouTube now.
There you go.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'll send you an email out and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's no hurry. I'm kind of busy the next couple of months anyway. I mean, there's no hurry, but
Winter's
I just think
coming
at
up.
some point it would be a good thing to
teach
do.
or you?
No, I'm not like.
You can produce films.
I produce films with scientists, so I spend a lot of time with them. I'm not a scientist myself. But obviously, because I make these films, and I spend a lot of time with these guys, then I've acquired some level of knowledge which is a bit higher than other people in the past. I'm not an expert myself, but I do interview the experts. See, I've worked with Stephen Hawking, a lot of big names in cosmology. And I am writing a paper with some scientists about the issue of animal suffering, actually.
Wow.
So there are some. What happened was, Bill Craig.
Yeah.
He made this claim in a debate that animals don't suffer because they don't have a prefrontal cortex, and I thought that's bullshit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right? Yeah, I'm sure you. Well, Adam Dean made the same claim.
Did he?
Because he copied everything from William Lane Craig. I don't know if he still does.
Suffering's apparent. It's apparent. You can see it.
Yeah, of course. Right? So I made a video, and then I interviewed some scientists for that. And they said he's talking bullshit. He did a response. I did a response, and then I was invited onto a radio show to discuss it. The Unbelievable Show. Do you know that one?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
You should listen to it. It's really good.
Have you done anything on halal meat and kosher meat?
No, I have not. No.
So there was a study in Hanover University where they put ECG and EEG monitors on the animal's brain, and then slaughtered them using the stunning method and the halal and kosher method.
Yes.
So just to give you an idea, maybe you can look into.
Well, I mean, I think it's wrong to kill animals, no matter how. Whether
Are you a vegan?
I'm a vegetarian, mostly vegan, totally vegetarian.
Okay.
But anyway, what happened was, when I was preparing for the radio debate, I was discussing the importance of some paper that I thought was important to show that fish have pain in particular. and some people would dispute that. And I was conversing with one of the authors, and he said, I said, why are you asking about our paper? And I told him, I was up front, and said, this claim is being made. He went, well, that's bullshit. And then eventually he said, why don't we write a paper together? And I went, I'm just a layman. I can't. And he goes, no, your ideas are really good. I think we should write a paper. So we're writing a paper. It's me, a neuroscientist, a philosopher of consciousness, and a pain specialist.
That's not bad. You got your name on a paper there.
Yeah, hopefully.
Lovely.
Well, it's not been published
Might
yet.
be a new career.
We'll see. Anyway,
give us a link when it comes out.
yeah, okay.
Take care, Phil.
Cheers.
All the
Nice to
best.
meet you.
Absolutely.
All right.